My name is Jade. I'm 32 years old, and for 8 years of marriage, I poured my heart into every little romantic gesture I could think of. Those love notes I used to write are now just ashes in our fireplace. The day my husband called me pathetic changed everything, but not in the way he expected. Before I share what happened, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Please hit that like button and subscribe if you've ever felt unappreciated in love. When Marcus and I first got married 8 years ago in suburban Minneapolis, I genuinely believed I had found my soulmate. I was 24, fresh out of college with a degree in graphic design, and Marcus was 27, working his way up the corporate ladder at a marketing firm. We had met at a coffee shop where I was sketching designs for a client, and he had accidentally spilled his latte on my portfolio. That clumsy moment turned into a 3-hour conversation, then a dinner date, then 2 years of what felt like a fairy tale romance. Back then, Marcus loved my romantic nature. He would tell his friends how lucky he was to have someone who cared so deeply. I remember the way his eyes would light up when I surprised him with concert tickets to his favorite band, or when I recreated our first date on our anniversary. Those early days were filled with mutual appreciation and genuine connection. I've always been the type of person who shows love through actions. Every single morning for 8 years, I would wake up 30 minutes before Marcus to prepare his breakfast. Not just any breakfast, but carefully crafted meals where I'd arrange the eggs and bacon into smiley faces or cut his toast into heart shapes. It sounds silly saying it now, but at the time it felt like my way of starting his day with love. The sticky notes became my signature. I'd tuck them into his laptop bag, stick them on his steering wheel, hide them in his gym shoes. Simple messages like, "You're my favorite hello and hardest goodbye," or "Thank you for being my safe place," or just, "I believe in you today." I bought special pens in different colors and would spend time each night writing the next day's notes while Marcus watched TV. Our Friday date nights were sacred to me. I would plan them weeks in advance, creating themes based on places we wanted to visit. Italian night with homemade pasta and Dean Martin playing softly. Mexican night with margaritas and salsa dancing in our living room. Movie marathon nights where I'd recreate theater snacks and build elaborate blanket forts. I kept a journal specifically for date night ideas, always trying to outdo myself. Throughout the day, I'd send him texts. Not constantly, I wasn't obsessive, but thoughtful messages when I knew he had important meetings. "You're going to crush that presentation," or "Just wanted you to know I'm proud of you," or sometimes just a funny meme to make him smile during stressful afternoons. I paid attention to his schedule, memorizing when he had reviews with his boss or difficult clients to handle. The little gifts were never expensive, that wasn't the point. I'd notice when he was running low on his favorite coffee beans, and mysteriously they'd appear. When he mentioned a book in passing, it would show up on his nightstand. His favorite dark chocolate would materialize in his desk drawer with a note saying, "For when Thursday feels like it's lasting forever." At first, Marcus reciprocated. He'd bring me flowers every few weeks. Planned surprise dinners leave his own notes on my mirror. But somewhere around year 3, things began shifting. The flowers stopped. The notes disappeared. Date nights became me asking, "What do you want to do tonight?" and him shrugging while scrolling through his phone. I told myself he was stressed with his promotion. The new responsibilities were overwhelming him. When he started working late, missing our date nights, I adapted. I'd pack elaborate dinners and drive them to his office, setting up romantic meals in the conference room after everyone left. He'd eat quickly, barely looking up from his computer, mumbling thanks between emails. Year 4 brought more distance. The sticky notes I'd find unopened in his bag at the end of the day. The texts left unread. The date nights where he'd suddenly remember urgent work right as we were supposed to leave. But I persisted because that's what love is, right? Pushing through the tough times, believing things would get better. My friends started noticing. "Does Marcus ever plan anything for you?" my best friend Amy asked during coffee one afternoon. I defended him immediately. "He's building his career for our future," I said. "Once things settle down, he'll have more time." Amy exchanged glances with our other friend Lisa, but they didn't push further. Year 5, 6, 7 blurred together in a pattern of me giving and Marcus taking for granted. I organized his mother's birthday parties, remembered his father's doctor appointments, sent thank you cards to his boss after dinner parties. I managed our social calendar, keeping track of his college friends' kids' birthdays and his coworkers' weddings. I was the invisible force keeping his life running smoothly while painting it with touches of beauty he no longer saw. I became an expert at reading his moods, knowing when to be extra quiet, when to be extra cheerful, when to disappear into my craft room so he could have space. I thought I was being a good wife, supportive and understanding. I didn't realize I was slowly erasing myself, becoming smaller to avoid inconveniencing him with my love. The sticky notes evolved into longer letters on special occasions. For his birthday, I'd write him a list of 35 reasons I loved him, one for each year of his life. For Christmas, I'd create photo albums of our year with handwritten captions capturing inside jokes and precious moments. For Valentine's Day, I'd spend weeks crafting the perfect love letter, pouring my heart onto paper with carefully chosen words. He stopped reading them. I know, because I'd find them later still sealed in their envelopes shoved in his desk drawer beneath tax documents and insurance papers. Once I found 3 years' worth of unopened anniversary cards I'd made by hand. Each one had taken hours, with pressed flowers from our wedding bouquet and watercolor paintings of places we'd been together. They were crushed beneath his gym clothes in the closet. But I kept trying. Maybe if I found the right gesture, the perfect expression of love, it would break through whatever wall had built up between us. I took cooking classes to master his favorite childhood dishes. I learned to play guitar to serenade him with our wedding song. I studied massage therapy through online videos to help with his tension headaches. Nothing worked. Marcus grew more distant, more irritated by my efforts. He'd roll his eyes when he saw me setting up something special. He'd sigh heavily when I suggested doing something together. The man who once stayed up all night talking to me about dreams and fears now couldn't spare 5 minutes to hear about my day. The preparation for our 8th wedding anniversary consumed me for 2 entire months. I wanted this one to be different, to be the reset button we desperately needed. I created a Pinterest board specifically for inspiration, filled with ideas that connected to our history. This wasn't just about romance. It was about reminding Marcus of who we used to be together. The restaurant reservation was the easiest part, though it took calling in a favor from a friend who knew the manager. Bella's Italian Bistro, the site of our very first official date. Table 12. The corner booth where Marcus had nervously knocked over the salt shaker trying to hold my hand. They still had the same red checkered tablecloths and the ancient jukebox that played Sinatra. I even convinced them to have the same waitress, Maria, who had served us 8 years ago and still remembered our order. The concert tickets were harder to acquire. The Midnight Travelers, the indie band we'd bonded over in our early days, rarely toured anymore. When I discovered they were doing a small venue show 2 hours away on a different night, I bought tickets and secretly arranged with Marcus's boss to give him that Friday off. I booked a romantic bed and breakfast near the venue, the kind with clawfoot tubs and breakfast served on vintage china. But the real masterpiece was the photo album. For 2 months, I collected every photograph I could find of us. I reached out to friends for pictures I didn't have, downloaded images from social media accounts going back years, even had his mother secretly send me photos from our wedding that I'd never seen. 100 pages organized not chronologically but emotionally, showing the journey of our love. Each page had a theme. The Way You Laugh featured 20 shots of Marcus mid-laughter at various moments. Adventures Big and Small showed us everywhere from the Grand Canyon to our local farmers market. Quiet Moments captured him reading on Sunday mornings, napping with our old cat, cooking pancakes in his boxers. I wrote captions for each photo, sharing memories and feelings he probably didn't know I carried. The final section was titled, 8 Years, 8 Promises Renewed. I wrote new vows, one for each year we'd been married, acknowledging both our struggles and my commitment to us. I practiced reading them aloud in my car during lunch breaks, wanting to get through them without crying. The letter took the longest. 8 pages. One for each year, documenting not just the highlights, but the growth, the challenges we'd overcome, the reasons I chose him again each morning despite the distance between us. I wrote about the first year's fumbling through joint finances and burnt dinners, the second year's loss of his grandmother, and how we held each other through grief. The third year's triumph when he got promoted, and we danced in the kitchen with champagne. Each year had its own page, its own story, ending with hope for year 9. October 15th arrived gray and drizzly, but I refused to see it as an omen. I took the day off work, spending the morning getting my hair styled at the salon, the way Marcus once said he loved it, soft waves that framed my face. I had my nails done in the deep red he'd picked out for me years ago. The dress hung in our bedroom, that red dress I'd worn on our first date, carefully preserved and still fitting thanks to stress-induced weight loss from worrying about our marriage. I set up the house for his return. Rose petals led from the front door to the bedroom, where I'd laid out his outfit, the charcoal suit he looked devastating in with the tie I'd given him on our first anniversary. His cologne was set out, the watch his father gave him for our wedding polished and waiting. I wanted everything perfect, every detail, to show him how much thought I'd put into this. By 4 o'clock I was ready. Hair done, makeup perfect, wearing the lingerie I'd bought specially for tonight beneath my coat. The album was wrapped in silver paper with a bow made from fabric from my wedding dress. The letter was in a cream envelope sealed with wax using the stamp we'd bought on our honeymoon in Scotland. Marcus was supposed to be home by 5 to get ready for our 6:30 reservation. 5:15 came and went. 5:30, 5:45. I called his office. His assistant said he'd left around 4. My texts went unread. Finally, at 6:10, his car pulled into the driveway. He walked in wearing jeans and his old college sweatshirt, his hair messy from the rain. He looked at the rose petals with confusion, then at me in my dress with something close to annoyance. "What's all this?" he asked, stepping over the petals rather than following their path. "It's our anniversary," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "Our reservation is at 6:30, but if we hurry—" "Anniversary." He pulled out his phone, checking the date. "Oh, right. Jade, I'm exhausted. Can we just order Chinese?" "I made reservations at Bella's. Table 12. And I have tickets for the Midnight Travelers this weekend." My voice was getting smaller with each word. He was already heading to the bedroom, pulling off his sweatshirt. "You should have checked with me first. I have that golf tournament with clients on Saturday." I followed him, watching as he kicked aside the suit I'd laid out and grabbed sweatpants from the drawer. "Marcus, please. I've been planning this for months. Just tonight. Just dinner." Something in my voice must have reached him because he stopped and really looked at me for the first time. His expression softened slightly, though I could see the effort it took. "Fine. Let me shower and change." The drive to the restaurant was silent. I held the wrapped album in my lap, the letter tucked inside my purse. Marcus drove with one hand, the other checking his phone at red lights. The rain had stopped, but the streets were still wet, reflecting the streetlights like mirrors of light. At Bella's, Maria greeted us warmly, remembering us, as I'd hoped. "The anniversary couple, 8 years. How wonderful, same booth, just like you," requested Mrs. Patterson. Marcus looked confused, like he'd forgotten this was where we'd had our first date. We sat across from each other in the red vinyl booth. The candle between us flickered, casting shadows on Marcus's face as he immediately pulled out his phone. "Just 1 second, he said, typing rapidly. "Client emergency." 1 second turned into 10 minutes. Our drinks arrived, his beer growing warm, my wine untouched. Other couples around us leaned into each other, sharing bites of food, laughing at private jokes. We sat in silence, broken only by his keyboard clicks. "Marcus," I finally said, pulling the album from my bag. "I made something for you." He glanced up briefly. "Oh, another scrapbook." The dismissal in his voice was like ice water down my spine. "It's not just a scrapbook. It's our story. Every moment that mattered, every—" I stopped as his phone rang. "I have to take this." He stood up, walking toward the entrance, leaving me holding the unopened gift. Maria approached carefully. "Everything okay, honey? Food should be out soon." I nodded, blinking back tears. "Everything's perfect." Marcus returned as our food arrived, the same dishes we'd ordered 8 years ago. He ate mechanically occasionally, responding to my attempts at conversation with one-word answers. The album sat between us, still wrapped, growing heavier with each passing minute. "Would you like to open it?" I finally asked. He sighed. "Jade, this is all a bit much, don't you think?" "Much?" "The restaurant, the whole production. We're not 25 anymore." I pulled out the letter with trembling hands. "I wrote you something about our 8 years together." I started reading, my voice shaking but determined. I made it through the first page describing our early days before I noticed he was staring at his phone again. Second page about overcoming challenges, and he yawned. Not a small, polite yawn, but a large, bored yawn that he didn't even try to hide. By the third page, he interrupted. "Are you almost done? We should get the check. I have an early meeting tomorrow." The rest of the letter crumpled in my hands as I shoved it back into my purse. The album remained unopened. The concert tickets stayed in my pocket. We drove home in suffocating silence, the red dress that once made him unable to keep his hands off me now feeling like a costume I'd worn to a party no one else attended. At home, I went straight to the bathroom, locking the door behind me. I sat on the cold tile floor in my red dress and sobbed until my ribs ached. Through the door, I could hear Marcus getting ready for bed, his normal routine, as if this night was nothing special. The toilet flushed. The lights clicked off. Within minutes, his snoring drifted through the walls. I stayed on that bathroom floor until 3 a.m, still in my dress, still wearing the lingerie he'd never see, holding the crumpled letter he'd never read. The woman in the mirror looked like a ghost wearing too much makeup, playing dress-up in someone else's life. The morning after our anniversary disaster arrived with the kind of sharp October sunlight that makes everything look too clear, too real. My eyes were swollen from crying, my body aching from sleeping the last 2 hours on the bathroom floor. I could hear Marcus in the kitchen, his normal morning routine of coffee and news podcasts unchanged by last night's catastrophe. I pulled myself up, showered off the smeared makeup and hairspray, and put on jeans and an old sweater. The red dress lay crumpled on the bathroom floor like a casualty of war. In the bedroom, the rose petals had turned brown at the edges. The wrapped album sat on my nightstand where I'd placed it before my bathroom breakdown, silver paper mocking me with its optimism. I found Marcus at the kitchen table, scrolling through his phone while eating cereal. Not the elaborate breakfast I usually made him, just cereal from a box. He looked up when I entered, and something in my face must have registered because he set down his phone. "About last night," he started, but I held up my hand. "We need to talk about us." He sighed, that heavy put-upon sigh I'd heard so many times. "Jade, I don't have time for another emotional discussion. Can't we just move on?" "No." The word came out stronger than expected. "I need to understand something. Do you even love me anymore?" "Of course I love you. You're being dramatic." "Then why don't you see me? Why don't you appreciate anything I do, the notes, the dinners, the planning, That's when it happened. Marcus's face contorted into something ugly, something I'd never seen before. He slammed his coffee mug down so hard, coffee sloshed onto the table. "You know what, Jade? You're pathetic." The word hung in the air between us like a physical blow. "All this romantic nonsense is embarrassing. Do you know what my coworkers say when they see those stupid sticky notes fall out of my bag? They laugh. They actually laugh at me for having a wife who acts like we're in some teenage romance novel." I stood frozen as he continued, his voice getting louder, meaner. "You act like we're still dating, like we're kids without real responsibilities. Grow-up adults don't need heart-shaped pancakes and love notes and constant validation. It's exhausting. You're exhausting." Each word was a dagger precisely aimed. But he wasn't done. "No wonder your friends avoid you. Have you noticed that Amy and Lisa, they make excuses now when you invite them over? You know why? Because you're too needy too much. Everything has to be a production with you. Can't we just have a normal dinner without candles and special playlists? Can't we just exist without you turning everything into some Hallmark movie moment? I'm trying to show you I love you," I whispered, my voice breaking. No, you're suffocating me. My mother was right about you. That stopped me cold. Your mother? She said you were too emotional, too needy, that you'd never be happy with real life, always chasing some fairy tale. I defended you for years, but she was right. You're living in a fantasy world. The Marcus I fell in love with was completely gone, replaced by this cruel stranger wearing his face. But he kept going, seemingly unable or unwilling to stop the flood of venom. Maybe if you focused on real things instead of this fake romance, you'd have gotten that promotion at work. Maybe if you spent less time on elaborate date nights and more time on personal development, you'd have something interesting to talk about besides us. When was the last time you told me about something that didn't revolve around our relationship? You never ask about my work, my friends, because it's always the same. Your work is fine. Your friends are fine. Everything is fine except us. And you're obsessed with fixing something that isn't broken, it's just normal. This is what marriage looks like after 8 years. This is reality. Reality is, you haven't touched me in 3 months. Reality is, you can't remember the last time you said you loved me without me saying it first. Reality is that you're suffocating me with all this fake romance. He stood up, towering over me. Every day it's something. A note, a text, a surprise, a gift. Can't you just leave me alone? Can't you just let me breathe without feeling guilty that I'm not reciprocating your over-the-top gestures? I felt something inside me break. Not my heart that had been breaking for years. Something deeper. The part of me that believed love could conquer all that believed if I just tried hard enough, loved deep enough, we could find our way back to each other. You want me to stop? My voice was steady now, cold in a way that seemed to surprise him. You want me to leave you alone? Yes. God. Yes. Stop with the notes, the surprises, the constant need for attention. Just stop. I looked at this man I'd given 8 years of my life to, who I'd loved with every fiber of my being, who now saw that love as a burden, an embarrassment, something pathetic. Fine, I said quietly. You want me to stop? I'll stop everything. Marcus actually smiled, relief flooding his face. Finally. Thank God. Maybe now we can have some peace. He grabbed his work bag, not noticing or not caring about the tears I was no longer trying to hide. I'm late. We're good now, right? You understand? I nodded, not trusting my voice. Good. See? That wasn't so hard. We just needed to clear the air. He walked over and gave me a brief, obligatory kiss on the forehead. Maybe order Thai for dinner. I'll be home late. Then he was gone, leaving me standing in our kitchen, surrounded by the life I'd built around loving him. The walls were covered with photos of us I'd carefully framed and arranged. The refrigerator held his favorite foods I'd shopped for yesterday. The calendar was marked with his important dates in my handwriting. I walked through our house like a detective at a crime scene, cataloging evidence of my pathetic love. The throw pillows I'd chosen because they matched his favorite shirt. The plants I kept alive because he mentioned once he liked greenery. The books on his nightstand I'd bought because I thought he'd enjoy them all unread. The expensive coffee maker I'd saved for months to buy because he preferred espresso. In his office, I found the last 6 months of sticky notes I'd written, all tucked into a drawer unread. Some still had their adhesive intact. In the closet, pressed between winter coats, were the anniversary cards. Birthday cards. Just because cards I'd made by hand. In the garage, shoved behind old paint cans, was the guitar I'd bought to learn our song. I gathered them all, every piece of evidence of my pathetic, embarrassing love. The photos from our trips where I was always smiling bigger. The concert tickets saved in memory boxes. The restaurant matchbooks from special occasions. The love letters he'd never opened. 8 years of trying to love someone who found that love suffocating. I built a fire in our fireplace, something I'd only done for romantic winter evenings Marcus never wanted to participate in. One by one, I fed the evidence to the flames. The photos curled and blackened. The letters became ash. The sticky notes created tiny fireworks of color before disappearing. I watched 8 years of romantic gestures turn to smoke rising up the chimney and dispersing into the October sky. But I didn't cry anymore. Something had shifted in that moment when Marcus called me pathetic. The desperate need to make him love me had finally mercifully died. In its place was something else. Not anger exactly, not hate. Something colder and more final. Determination. He wanted me to stop, I would stop. But not just the romance. I would stop everything that my love had prompted me to do. Every single thing. He had no idea how much of his life ran on the engine of my pathetic, embarrassing love. But he was about to find out. The first week of my complete withdrawal began the very next morning. Marcus woke to his phone alarm instead of me gently waking him with coffee already made. I heard him fumbling around the kitchen cursing when he realized the coffee maker was empty. The elaborate breakfast spreads were over. No more smiley face eggs or heart-shaped toast. I sat at the table with my own yogurt and granola scrolling through my phone while he searched for cereal. "Out of milk?" he asked, staring into the refrigerator. "I don't know. I only bought almond milk for myself." He looked confused but grabbed his keys. "I'll get some on the way to work." No sticky note waited in his laptop bag. No text came at lunch, wishing him luck with his presentation. When 5 o'clock rolled around, I wasn't in the kitchen starting dinner. I was at a coffee shop reading a book I'd wanted to finish for months. My phone buzzed with his text. "Where are you?" "Out." "When will you be home?" "Later." "What about dinner?" "There's frozen pizza in the freezer." I stayed at the coffee shop until 8, then drove to a bookstore and wandered for another hour. When I finally came home, Marcus was eating cereal again, looking irritated. "Where were you?" "Out." "Out where? Does it matter?" I walked past him to the bedroom, not waiting for an answer. The second week, I stopped doing his laundry. His hamper filled up while mine stayed manageable. I only washed my clothes, folded them, put them away. His dress shirts accumulated in a wrinkled pile. By Thursday, he was out of clean underwear. "Did you forget to do laundry?" he asked, holding his empty drawer open. "I did my laundry." "What about mine?" "What about it?" "You always... Never mind." I watched him struggle to figure out the washing machine settings, ultimately shrinking his favorite polo shirt and turning his white dress shirts pink with a red sock. He blamed the machine. I said nothing. The house began reflecting the division. I cleaned my spaces, my bathroom, my side of the bedroom, the areas I used in the kitchen. His office developed a layer of dust. His bathroom mirror splattered with toothpaste. Dishes he used piled in the sink while I washed mine immediately. "The house is a mess," he complained one evening. "Then clean it." I responded, not looking up from my laptop where I was researching pottery classes. "That's your..." He stopped himself, but we both knew what he was about to say. "That's your job." Because in his mind, all the household management was naturally my responsibility, just like the emotional labor of maintaining our relationship had been. By the third week, the cracks really started showing. Marcus missed 3 important appointments because I wasn't reminding him anymore. His mother's birthday passed without a card or call because I always handled family occasions. His car registration expired. He ran out of his prescription medication. The bills I usually organized and reminded him to pay started accumulating late fees. "Why didn't you tell me the electric bill was due?" he demanded, waving the late notice. "Why would I? It's addressed to you. You always handle the bills." I handled a lot of things, but that was when I was being pathetic and embarrassing. I've stopped, remember, just like you asked. The fourth week brought professional consequences. Without my morning pep talks and evening stress relief sessions, Marcus's performance at work began suffering. He'd grown dependent on me reviewing his presentations, catching his errors, reminding him of details about clients I'd helped him remember through careful note-taking at dinner parties. He came home one Friday in a rage. "I look like an idiot in the meeting today. You didn't remind me about the Henderson account details." "How would I know about the Henderson account? You always help me prep for big meetings." "That was before, when I was suffocating you with my neediness. I'm giving you the space you wanted." Meanwhile, I was transforming. The energy I'd poured into our relationship redirected toward myself. I joined a pottery class on Tuesday evenings, discovering I had real talent for creating beautiful, functional pieces. The instructor, a woman named Carmen, who'd been throwing clay for 30 years, praised my attention to detail and emotional expression in my work. I started a book club with some women from work I'd never had time to connect with before. We met Thursday nights at wine bars discussing everything from literary fiction to trashy romance novels, laughing until our sides hurt. Sarah, one of the members, became a particularly close friend. She was an artist who'd been through her own divorce and understood the grief of loving someone who didn't love you back. My weekends, once spent planning elaborate surprises for Marcus, were now mine. I hiked trails I'd always wanted to explore. I visited art museums he'd found boring. I took myself to fancy brunches with a book, sitting at the bar and chatting with strangers. I realized I hadn't been alone with myself in 8 years. I'd forgotten I was interesting, funny, worth knowing beyond being Marcus's wife. The gym became my sanctuary on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings. Not to lose weight or look good for Marcus, but to feel strong. I started with yoga, moved to weights, eventually found myself in kickboxing classes, imagining his face on the bag as I threw punch after punch. Month 2 arrived with Marcus in full panic mode. The house felt different. Not just messier on his side, but fundamentally shifted. The warmth was gone because I'd been the one providing it. The smell of baking bread, the fresh flowers on the table, the soft music playing in the evenings, all absent. He lived in the shell of what had been our home, while I created my own sphere within it. "We need to talk," he said one evening, finding me reading in the bedroom. "About you've changed. You're cold, distant." I set down my book, looking at him with genuine curiosity. "I'm exactly what you asked for. I didn't ask for this. You said my romantic gestures were pathetic and embarrassing. You said I was suffocating you. You wanted me to stop. I stopped. I meant the over-the-top stuff. Not everything. But everything I did came from the same place, Marcus. My love for you, the breakfast, the laundry, the bills, the reminders, the emotional support, it all came from love. You rejected that love as too much, so I removed it all." He stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. "This is revenge." "No," I said calmly, returning to my book. "This is me respecting your boundaries. You should be happy. You got exactly what you asked for." His attempts to restore the old dynamic were almost comical. He bought grocery store flowers already wilting and left them on the counter without water. He attempted to cook dinner one night, burning the chicken and oversalting the vegetables, then got angry when I politely declined and made myself a salad instead. "I'm trying here," he shouted. "Trying what I didn't ask you to cook. I thought you'd appreciate it. The way you appreciated 8 years of my cooking." He tried leaving his own sticky notes, awkwardly worded and placed randomly. "Have good day," on the bathroom mirror. "Love you" on my laptop. They felt like a child's homework assignment, obligatory and insincere. I threw them away without comment. One evening, he attempted to plan a date night, choosing a sports bar where we'd never been and making a reservation for the wrong night. When he realized his mistake, he blamed me for not reminding him to double-check. "You always kept track of these things better," he mumbled. "Yes, I did. And you called it pathetic." The professional crisis peaked when Marcus lost a major client. Without my social skills smoothing over his rough edges at dinner parties, without my careful tracking of personal details about clients' families, without my reminder system for follow-ups, he fumbled a relationship he'd spent 2 years building. He came home defeated, expecting comfort. Finding none, he lashed out. "My career is falling apart, and you don't even care. I care as much as you cared about mine." Which is to say, not at all. "When was the last time you asked about my job?" "Your job. You're a graphic designer. What's there to ask?" "I got promoted 3 months ago. I'm creative director now. But you didn't know that because you never asked." His face went white. "You got promoted? Why didn't you tell me? You said you wanted me to focus on real things instead of us. My career is a real thing. I focused on it. Thanks for the advice. The financial reality hit when he realized I'd also stopped contributing my salary to our joint account, only paying exactly half of the essential bills. The rest went into my own savings account I'd opened. The vacation he'd been planning with his buddies was suddenly unaffordable without the cushion my income had always provided. "Where's the money from your paycheck?" he demanded, looking at the bank statement. "In my account. We have a joint account. For joint expenses, which I'm paying half of. The rest is mine." "That's not how marriage works. According to you, I've been doing marriage wrong for 8 years. I'm trying it your way now." By month 3, Marcus was unraveling. He'd lost weight from eating cereal and takeout. His clothes were wrinkled and mismatched. He'd missed his father's birthday, his best friend's promotion celebration, and his company's important golf tournament because I wasn't managing his calendar. His boss had made comments about his declining performance and disheveled appearance. Meanwhile, I was thriving. My pottery was selling at a local artisan shop. My friend group had expanded to include Carmen from pottery, several women from book club, and a running group I'd joined. I'd redecorated the spare bedroom into an art studio, filling it with light and life and creative energy. I'd started freelancing on the side, building a client base that appreciated my romantic aesthetic and attention to detail, the very things Marcus found embarrassing. The night he broke down was a Thursday. I came home from book club wine tipsy and laughing from Sarah's story about her dating disasters, to find Marcus sitting in the dark living room surrounded by the photo albums I hadn't burned the ones from before we were married. "You were so happy," he said, pointing at a picture of me laughing at some long-forgotten joke. "We were so happy. I was happy because I was in love. I stayed happy as long as I believed you loved me back. I do love you. No, Marcus. You love what I did for you. You loved having a wife who made your life easier while asking for nothing in return except affection you were too busy to give. I want to fix this. Tell me how to fix this." "You can't. Marriage counseling, I'll do it." "It's too late." "It can't be too late. This is fixable." "Marcus." I sat down across from him, not beside him. "You fundamental broke something 8 months ago when you called my love pathetic. You took the most precious thing I had to offer and made me ashamed of it. I can't unfeel that. I can't unhear those words. I didn't mean them. I was stressed and tired and honest. For once you were honest about how you saw me. As a burden. An embarrassment. Someone to tolerate rather than cherish." He started crying, then ugly sobs that should have moved me, but didn't. I watched him with the detached curiosity I'd developed like observing an exhibit at a museum. "Please, Jade. Please. I see now what I had. What I threw away. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I believe you're sorry. You're sorry because your life is harder now. You're sorry because you have to do your own laundry and remember your own appointments and cook your own meals. You're sorry because you lost your personal assistant who worked for free and only asked for love as payment. That's not, you're more than that. Am I what's my favorite book?" Marcus' silence. "What was my promotion for? What project did I complete?" More silence. "What's my pottery teacher's name? What are my friends' names, the new ones?" He stared at me, realizing he knew nothing about who I'd become in the past 3 months. "You don't love me, Marcus. You love the services I provided. And now that I've stopped providing them, you want them back. But I'm not a vending machine where you can insert minimal affection and receive devoted service. I'm a person who deserved to be loved the way I loved you." The conversation that night marked a turning point, though not the one Marcus hoped for. He launched into a desperate campaign to win me back, but every gesture felt hollow, performative, like an actor who'd forgotten his lines trying to improvise romance from memory. He started waking up early to make breakfast, burning eggs, and leaving dishes piled in the sink for me to find. The smoke detector went off so many times I disconnected it. He'd present these charred offerings with expectant eyes, waiting for praise deflating when I'd simply make myself toast and leave. His sticky notes multiplied like desperate graffiti. "Beautiful" on the mirror, with no context. "Thinking of you" on my steering wheel, generic as a store-bought card. "Miss us" on my coffee mug, which I replaced with my own. They were words without weight, scribbled obligations that meant nothing because they came from panic, not love. The flowers became a weekly comedy. Gas station bouquets wrapped in plastic, already dying, dropped on the counter like an afterthought. Once he bought Rose's red ones, but left them in his hot car all day. They were brown by the time he remembered them. He actually got angry when I didn't put them in water. "I'm trying to be romantic," he shouted, holding the dead roses like evidence of his effort. "No, you're trying to buy back services with wilted flowers and burnt eggs." Meanwhile, my life bloomed in ways I hadn't imagined possible. The pottery studio became my second home. Carmen introduced me to the artist community, a vibrant group of creators who gathered monthly for gallery shows and wine. My pieces sold well enough that I started taking custom orders. There was something deeply satisfying about creating beautiful things that people actually valued, unlike the romantic gestures I'd wasted on Marcus. Sarah and I became inseparable. She understood my journey because she'd walked it herself. We spent Saturdays at farmers markets and art fairs, Sundays at museums, and matinee movies Marcus would have hated. She introduced me to her brother Daniel, a musician who played guitar at local venues. Not romantically, just as a friend, but he looked at my pottery with more genuine interest than Marcus had ever shown in anything I created. The book club evolved into a support group of successful women navigating relationships, careers, and self-discovery. We called ourselves the Thursday Night Wine Witches, and those evenings became sacred. No topic was off limits. We dissected bad dates and good books with equal enthusiasm. When I told them about Marcus calling me pathetic, they surrounded me with the fierce love of women who knew their worth. My career skyrocketed without the constant drain of managing Marcus's life. The promotion I'd barely celebrated turned into another one 6 months later. My freelance work caught the attention of a major design firm. They offered me a contract that would double my income. I accepted without discussing it with Marcus, finding out later he'd assumed I'd turn it down to focus on our marriage. "You took the job without talking to me," he was incredulous. "Did you discuss your golf tournaments with me? Your nights out with coworkers? Your decision to work late every evening for 5 years? That's different." "You're right. Those were choices that affected both of us. This one only affects me." The studio apartment came next. Not to move into immediately, but as an option. A safety net. A glimpse of freedom. It was small but bright, with windows facing east and hardwood floors that caught the morning light. I furnished it slowly with pieces I loved, art from friends' pottery I'd made myself. It became my secret garden, a place Marcus didn't know existed, where I could breathe without the weight of his presence. His mother visited for Thanksgiving, expecting the usual elaborate spread I'd always prepared. She found Marcus attempting to cook a turkey he'd forgotten to thaw, me heading out to Sarah's family gathering, and her son in yesterday's clothes looking like he'd aged 5 years in 5 months. "What have you done to him?" She cornered me while I gathered my purse. "Exactly what he asked me to do. Nothing. He's falling apart." "Then perhaps you should have raised him to take care of himself instead of expecting a wife to do it for him." I left her sputtering in the kitchen, Marcus near tears, trying to figure out how to make stuffing from a box. December brought the company Christmas party, the one where spouses were expected. Marcus begged me to attend, actually getting on his knees one evening like this was a romantic comedy and not the slow death of a marriage. "Please, Jade. My job depends on this. Everyone expects you." They expect the old me, the one who remembered everyone's names and dietary restrictions, and asked about their kids. That woman was pathetic and embarrassing, remember? "I need you. You need a social secretary. Hire one." I went to my own company party instead, wearing a dress I'd bought for myself, not chosen based on what Marcus would like. Daniel's band played the event. He dedicated a song to the artists in the room, winking at me and Sarah as we danced. For the first time in years, I felt young again, alive again, visible as more than someone's wife. Marcus made one last grand gesture on New Year's Eve. I came home from Sarah's to find the house transformed. Candles everywhere, rose petals scattered, our wedding song playing. He stood in his wedding tux holding a new ring, understanding that he was recreating the romance he'd killed with his own words. Jade, I want to start over. Renew our vows. I see everything clearly now. I was stupid, blind, cruel. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. Your love wasn't pathetic, it was beautiful. I was the pathetic one for not treasuring it. He'd written vows, pages of them, full of promises and apologies and declarations. He read them with tears streaming down his face while I stood there in my jeans and winter coat, snow still in my hair, feeling nothing but tired. When he finished dropping to one knee with the ring, I finally felt the last chain break. Marcus, stand up. Is that a yes? It's a no. It's a complete final no. His face crumbled. But I did everything right this time. The romance, the gestures, the vows. You're performing what you think I wanted, but it's all wrong. I didn't want grand gestures, I wanted daily appreciation. I didn't want desperate vows. I wanted you to read the love notes I left you. I didn't want you on your knees now. I wanted you to notice me then. I notice you now. You notice my absence. You notice that your life is harder without me managing it. You notice that you're drowning without me as your life raft. That's not love, Marcus. That's dependency. Then what is love? Love is what I gave you for 8 years. Consistent, thoughtful, daily acts of care. Not because I had to, but because making your life better made me happy. Love is knowing someone's coffee order and their fears and their dreams and their mother's birthday. Love is creating a soft place for someone to land every single day, not just when you're afraid of losing them. I can learn. Maybe you can. But not with me. I'm done teaching. The divorce papers were filed in January. Marcus fought it at first, oscillating between rage and desperation. He hired a marriage counselor for himself, started therapy, read every relationship book available. He sent me daily emails detailing his growth, his revelations, his understanding of what went wrong. I didn't read them. The house sold quickly. I took only what I'd brought into the marriage and what I'd bought myself. The pottery wheel, my books, the art I'd collected. I left the wedding photos, the anniversary gifts still in their boxes, the guitar I'd never learned to play. Let him figure out what to do with the museum of our failed marriage. My new apartment, the one I'd been secretly preparing, felt like coming home to myself. Every corner reflected who I was without him. Bold colors he would have called too bright. Music he would have found too loud. Art he would have deemed impractical. I hung my pottery pieces on the walls, displayed my friends' artwork, created a space that celebrated rather than diminished who I was. The first night alone, I waited for sadness, for regret, for the grief of 8 years ending. Instead, I felt light, free, like I'd been holding my breath underwater for years and finally broke the surface. I made myself dinner exactly what I wanted, played music he'd hated, danced in my kitchen with a glass of wine, and went to bed at 9 p.m. just because I could. 1 year has passed since that New Year's Eve when I said my final no to Marcus. I'm writing this from my pottery studio, the one I now own with Carmen as a business partner. My hands are covered in clay, which would have horrified the old me who kept her nails perfect for a husband who never noticed. Now the clay under my fingernails feels like freedom. The studio opens to the public in an hour. We teach classes 4 days a week, sell our pieces on weekends, and host wine and wheel events monthly that are booked solid through next year. Carmen says I have a gift for teaching, for showing people how to channel their emotions into something tangible and beautiful. Most of my students are women going through transitions, divorces, empty nests, career changes. They recognize something in me, a kindred spirit, who understands that sometimes you have to destroy what you were to become who you're meant to be. Sarah and I traveled to Italy last summer, something I'd always dreamed of, but Marcus had deemed too expensive while planning golf trips with his buddies. We spent 2 weeks in Tuscany taking pottery classes from master craftsmen, drinking wine in ancient vineyards, laughing until our sides ached. I sent postcards to my Thursday night wine witches, but not to Marcus, though I heard through mutual friends he'd been hoping I would. Those mutual friends tell me things I don't ask to know. That Marcus is in therapy twice a week now, working through what his therapist calls emotional neglect disorder, the inability to recognize or reciprocate emotional labor. That he's living in a one-bedroom apartment, learning to cook from YouTube videos, setting reminders on his phone for his mother's birthday. That he tells anyone who'll listen about the wife who loved him perfectly, and how he destroyed it with carelessness disguised as masculinity. He sent flowers to the studio on what would have been our 9th anniversary. Not gas station carnations, but a thoughtful arrangement of my favorite peonies with a card that just said, "I remember now." Carmen threw them in the dumpster before I could see them, but she told me about it later over wine. We toasted to lessons learned too late. Daniel, Sarah's brother, asked me out last month. We've been taking it slow dinners here and there, concerts in the park. He reads every menu description out loud, because he knows I love hearing about food. He saves interesting articles to share with me. When I made him a small pottery bowl for his birthday, he actually cried. "No one's ever made me something with their hands before," he said, cradling it like it was precious. Which I'm learning is how love should be received. The business is thriving beyond our dreams. We're expanding, adding a gallery space, hiring 2 more instructors. I'm teaching a workshop next month called Reclaiming Your Romantic Self, marketed to people who've been told they're too much, too emotional, too romantic. It sold out in 6 hours. Apparently the world is full of people who've been made to feel ashamed of their beautiful hearts. My apartment has become a gathering place. Thursday nights still belong to the wine witches, but now there are Sunday brunches, Tuesday pottery parties, random Wednesday dinners where everyone brings something. The walls are covered with art from friends' photos from adventures, evidence of a life fully lived. There's a man who comes sometimes, usually on Fridays. Marcus. He stands across the street from the studio, watching through the windows as I teach, as I laugh, as I exist without him. I see him but don't acknowledge it. There's nothing cruel in my indifference, nothing vengeful. He's simply become a stranger who once knew me when I was someone else. Someone who thought loving completely meant disappearing into another person's life until you forgot where they ended and you began. The greatest irony is that my capacity for romance didn't die when Marcus killed our marriage. It transformed, redirected toward myself and my community. I still write love notes, but now they're to friends going through hard times. I still plan elaborate dinners, but now they're for chosen family who reciprocate with their own offerings of love. I still give thoughtful gifts, but now they go to people who understand that someone remembering your favorite tea flavor is a form of prayer. The studio is busy now, with evening students arriving, their faces eager and open. Some are here to learn pottery, but most are here to learn what I learned, that your hands can create beautiful things even after they've been told they're too much. That love isn't pathetic when given to people who recognize its value. That sometimes the best thing someone can do is tell you exactly who they are so you can believe them and leave. Marcus sent one last letter delivered yesterday through his lawyer with the final divorce papers. I opened it against my better judgment. It was short, written in his messy handwriting. Jade, I understand now that you loved me the way people are supposed to love, with their whole hearts and daily actions. I called it pathetic because I was too empty to hold it, too scared to return it, too proud to value it. Your love was never too much. I was too little. The silence in my apartment is what I asked for, and it's the loudest reminder of what I lost. I hope someone loves you the way you loved me. Actually, I hope someone loves you better. Marcus. I burned the letter in the kiln with today's pottery pieces, watching his words turn to ash, and then to nothing, incorporated into a vase I'm making for Sarah's birthday. She doesn't know about the letter, won't know her gift contains the final words of my former life. She'll just receive a beautiful vase from her best friend who loves her openly, romantically, without shame. Tonight Daniel is coming over for dinner. I'm making an elaborate meal, the kind Marcus would have ignored while scrolling his phone. I've written Daniel a note and tucked it into the book he left here last week. It's not a love note, not yet, just a quote from the novel we're both reading and a silly doodle of his cat. He'll find it and probably text me immediately with 17 heart emojis, because he's not afraid of enthusiasm, of showing joy, of being deemed too much. The women in my pottery class tonight are all at different stages of their journeys. Some still cry at the wheel tears mixing with clay. Some laugh too loudly, almost hysterically drunk on their first taste of freedom. Some work in focused silence, creating piece after piece, working something out through their hands. I move between them, adjusting their form, steadying their pressure, whispering encouragements. Beautiful, I tell Martha, whose husband left her for his secretary. You're doing beautifully. Too much water, I tell Jennifer, recently divorced after 20 years. Ease up, trust the process. Feel the clay, I tell Destiny, young and heartbroken. Let it tell you what it wants to become. This is what I know now. Love is not pathetic. Romance is not embarrassing. Caring deeply is not too much. The right people will receive your love like the gift. It is tenderly, gratefully, reciprocally. The wrong people will make you feel ashamed of your beautiful heart. And when they do, when they tell you exactly who they are, believe them. And leave. Leave with your whole heart intact, even if it's broken. Leave with your capacity to love undiminished, even if it's bruised. Leave knowing that someone calling your love pathetic says everything about them and nothing about you. Leave and rebuild, and redirect all that beautiful energy toward yourself and people who understand that being loved completely by someone who knows how to love is the rarest, most precious gift in this world. My name is Jade. I'm 33 years old. I loved someone with my whole heart for 8 years, and when he called that love pathetic, I stopped. Not just the romance, but everything my love had built. I took it all with me when I left every ounce of care and tenderness and devotion, and I gave it to myself instead. Now I teach other people how to do the same, how to save their own lives by refusing to be ashamed of their beautiful hearts. The clay is warm beneath my hands. Another vase is taking shape, this one for my kitchen, for the flowers I buy myself every Friday. I can see Marcus through the window, still standing across the street, still watching. But I don't look up. I'm too busy creating something beautiful, something mine, something that will hold flowers and water and light, something that will never call beauty pathetic or love embarrassing, something that knows exactly what it's worth. Thank you all so much for listening to my story today. I'm curious, have you ever been told your way of loving was too much? How did you reclaim that part of yourself? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about finding strength in unexpected places. Share this with someone who needs to hear that their love is not too much, they're just giving it to the wrong person. Until next time, remember to love boldly and never let anyone make you ashamed of your beautiful heart. Take care of yourselves and keep creating your own beautiful stories.